Hello everyone. I'm going to show you a very professional way to patch a hole in a wall. I don't feel like I need to go through the whole 9 yards showing you. So I went ahead and prepared this so it would be quick, simple, and I know that you all can understand what's going on here when I'm finished. Now, right here, here's your wall, has a hole in it. Well, reach into that hole and see if the sheetrock is messed up on the back side of it. It's important to remove that, any bad spot, because it can be a bigger mess on the back side than it is on the front. Having said that, when you see how big you need to cut your square around that hole, make you a square template like this. Alright, put it over that hole, outline it, and then cut your square out. And after you cut your square out, let me remove this. After you cut your square out, this is what you've got. Alright, get rid of that bad hole. And then on your plug here for it, you know, you can come out 2-3 inches, whatever turns you on, all the way around that hole. You can mark around it. You know, you can leave a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, whatever. As you can see right here, I left a little room around there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Alright. Get you a piece of sheetrock. Cut out your square piece of sheetrock, the size you need to go back, and then turn your sheetrock around. Alright, and as you can see on the front, I put top front. It's important to do that if your hole isn't perfectly square. Alright, so you take your plug and you have the back side of it. Put it on that piece. Mark it, and you know, leave your sheet, you know, cut your sheetrock out far enough in a square right there. All right, so after you mark it right there, you know, cut a straight line all the way there. Makes it easy, and cut one all the way across. After you do that, you very carefully break your sheetrock. You know how that goes. And leave your skin that's on the front of your plug around it, just like that. And then, you know, it's nice to have a little bit of room there. And then you just put, if you have to, you can put a little bit of sheetrock around that. Not much. And then put some sheetrock around on the inside of the square you cut out. And after you do that, run your joint compound over right here where we removed that skin. And then take this piece, stick it back in there carefully, and don't try to shove it all the way in perfectly with your hands, because it could become uneven. So you want a ruler or a straight piece of wood, and just very carefully, well, I have to remind myself here, But after you've done that, you put your sheetrock, around the square, and run you a nice coat of joint compound over this area where you removed your skin. Don't put any on the back of this. Alright, put that plug in carefully, shove it back in even with a ruler or something to make sure it just goes flush. And then take your putty knife, rub that down. Hold your mouth just right. You don't want to have to rub too many times or it might lift back up. But make sure you got a nice thin coat on that part. So once you rub that down, with this sitting perfectly in place, don't touch it. Let it dry real good. Sometimes good way to do something, you want to take time. Don't try to be so quick about it. That's where a lot of people mess up. Let it dry real good. Now the sheetrock on the inside of this plug, it's going to be thicker than that thin layer where your skin goes. So it needs time to dry real good. And it takes a little time for sheetrock to dry, depending on how thick it is behind there. Give it plenty of time to dry. Now if this skin that overlaps, sometimes you might have a little bubble area that might show up from where it didn't stick perfectly. No big deal, because once it's dried real good, take a razor blade and cut around that little bubble. Remove that skin. And then run you a thin coat of sheetrock over the whole thing. Don't build it out, because what we want to do is keep this as flush as possible with the wall. That way if there's good lighting on that wall and you look down it, you don't want to be able to see where your patch was when you're finished. And let that dry. Take some fine sandpaper, doesn't have to be coarse, and very carefully smooth it, the sheetrock, the joint compound that you put on it. And then you'll see that you need to maybe run a nice thin coat over the whole thing without building it out. You don't want no bulges in the wall. And then you'll be able to sand that down. And then you can either put your primer on it just to see how it looks, to know that everything's just right. And then paint over it. And then you have a perfectly done sheetrock hole repair. When somebody goes in there to look at it, they should not be able to find where because cell phone slid down on my pole. Nobody should be able to see where you were when you're finished. It'll be pretty much perfectly even with the wall. It disappears completely. So if you have extra work to do, go ahead and start the hole first, repairing the hole. That way you can give it all day or until the next day or whatever, to make sure that sheetrock, that joint compound, is dried real good. And then you'll figure out the rest. You'll have a very professional looking job. Now some holes that are big, you might want to put maybe a straight board in there. You can't go too much, a long board, You know, you can only get so much within there. It wouldn't give you much, where you could, you know, run some screws into the board if it needs that extra support. But small holes, you don't need that extra support behind it. And when you're all done, it'll look very professional. I've seen a lot of sheetrock repairs going on, and you know, they didn't look too good when they were finished. They'd have bulges in the wall. Not good. So this is the way that I do a professional sheetrock repair. Having that skin overlap, keeping the surface and everything as even as possible. That way you can't see where the hole and patch ever was. So have fun, hold your mouth just right, and you'll feel proud of your work when you finish. Thank you much for your time and watching this video. Have a good day.